The Enforcement Directorate is carrying out raids at multiple locations in Ranchi. Huge amount of cash was recovered from household help of Sanjeev Lal, who's PS to Jharkhand Rural Development Minister Alamgir Alam in Virendra Ram case. The ED arrested Virendra K. Ram, the chief engineer at the Jharkhand Rural Development Department, in February 2023 in a money laundering case linked to alleged irregularities in implementation of some schemes. Video footage shows a mountain of currency notes scattered across a room allegedly belonging to the domestic help of Sanjeev Lal, the personal secretary to Alamgir Alam. The Congress leader there represents the Pakur seat in the Jharkhand Assembly. An assistance amount of 1 crore rupees will be provided to the family of Indian Air Force soldier Corporal Vicky Pahade, who lost his life in Poonch attack. Chief Minister Mohan Yadav, who will pay tribute to Vicky in Chhindwara today and there meet his family. Security personnel carried out a search operation following a terrorist attack on an Indian Air Force convoy on the 4th of March, in which one personnel was killed. Search operation was conducted to track the terrorists. Security forces have laid down nakas and checking is going on in the area. At least one soldier was killed while 5 others suffered injuries when a vehicle convoy of the Indian Air Force came under heavy firing from terrorists in the Poonch district of Jammu and Kashmir. My colleague Ankit Bhatt gets us an update from the location.
पुंछ के इलाके में भारतीय वायुसेना पर आतंकियों की तरफ से भारतीय वायुसेना के वाहन पर घात लगाकर हमला किया गया, जिसमें भारतीय वायुसेना का एक जवान शहीद हो गया तो वहीं 4 जवान जो है वो घायल हुए हैं, जिनका उपचार इस वक्त उधमपुर बेस मिलिट्री हॉस्पिटल में चल रहा है। लेकिन लगातार सुरक्षा बलों की तरफ से आतंकियों की धरपकड़ के लिए महा ऑपरेशन पुंछ के इलाकों में चलाए जा रहा है। अब सर्च ऑपरेशन का दायरा लगातार बढ़ा दिया गया है। सूरंगकोट पुंछ के घने जंगलों में लगातार सुरक्षा बलों की तरफ से महा ऑपरेशन चलाया जा रहा है और तस्वीरों में आप देखिए कि किस तरीके से आउटर कॉर्डन पे घने जंगलों में ये सुरक्षा बल किस तरीके से यहाँ पर तैनात है। जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस के स्पेशल ऑपरेशन ग्रुप, भारतीय सेना की राष्ट्रीय राइफल्स और स्पेशल फोर्सेस जो है वो यहाँ पर तैनात की गई है ताकि जल्द से जल्द आतंकियों की धरपकड़ की जा सके। इलाका आप देखिए घने जंगल का इलाका है और किस तरीके से जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस के स्पेशल ऑपरेशन ग्रुप के जो जवान हैं वो यहाँ पर लगातार इन पूरे घने जंगलों में सैनिटाइज करते हुए नजर आ रहे हैं और अत्याधुनिक उपकरण और अत्याधुनिक हथियारों से ये जवान जो है वो लैस है। लगातार पाकिस्तान में बैठे हुए आतंकियों के आका ये प्रयास कर रहे हैं कि जम्मू कश्मीर में बड़ा आतंकी हमले करवाए जा सके और खास तौर पे राजौरी और पुंछ में एक बार फिर आतंकवाद को रिवाइव किया जा सके। आज ऑपरेशन का 3रा दिन है और ऐसे में आप देखिए कि किस तरीके से ये देखिए जवान किस तरीके से आगे की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं और लगातार इन्हीं घने जंगलों को सर्च करते हुए आगे की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं ताकि अगर इस घने जंगल के अंदर कोई भी संदिग्ध है तो उसको न्यूट्रलाइज किया जा सके। आपको बता दें कि इस इलाके में राजौरी के इलाके में हाल ही में ही एक सिविलियन को आतंकियों की तरफ से टारगेट किया गया था, उसकी डेथ हो चुकी है। हालांकि जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस की तरफ से एक बड़े आतंकी जिसका नाम अबू हमजा है उसकी धरपकड़ के लिए लगातार महा ऑपरेशन जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस की तरफ से चलाया जा रहा है और कई अलग अलग ऑपरेशन राजौरी, डीकेजी, सूरंगकोट और पुंछ के घने जंगलों में जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस और भारतीय सेना की तरफ से चलाया जा रहा है ताकि जल्द से जल्द इन आतंकियों की तलाश हो सके, जल्द से जल्द इन आतंकियों की धरपकड़ हो सके। लगातार जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस का ये प्रयास है कि यहाँ पर जो पूरी तरीके से ख़त्म हुई आतंकवाद था उसको एक बार फिर से जिस तरीके से आतंकियों की तरफ से कोशिश की जा रही है उसको जिंदा करने की, उसको एक बार फिर इस इलाके में जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस और भारतीय सेना ये प्रयास कर रही है कि जितने भी बचे हुए आतंकी रजौरी और पुंछ के इलाके में हैं उनको न्यूट्रलाइज किया जा सके।
We step on a quick break now. News and updates continue on the other side. Stay with us.
जानना है तो देखिए, समझना है तो सुनिए, सीखना है तो पूछिए और कमाना है तो खरीदिए। जानकारी, सलाह और निवेश सब एक ही सुपर ऐप पर। पैसे का सवाल है तो जवाब है Money9। आजादी पैसे की, अभी डाउनलोड करें।
The football is mother of all games.
It is a team sport.
The leadership attitude is taking the ownership.
It's always a big responsibility to take decisions and the right decisions.
I always question the stereotypical.
And that's why you are in that position.
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Welcome back. A political war of words has broken out over the Poonch attack, wherein former Punjab Chief Minister and Congress leader Charanjit Channi went all out, accusing the BJP for pulling of such stunts right during the elections. Meanwhile, ex-Deputy Chief Minister of J&K and BJP leader Kavinder Gupta hit back at Channi's remarks, slamming Congress for stooping low and favouring foreign countries more than India. He said, and I quote, "They work on the orders of foreign elements. They do not have any affinity for the armed forces. They question the sacrifices of brave hearts," quote unquote. Let's now take a look at the political mudslinging that took place between both the leaders.
ये स्टंटबाजी हो रही है, हमले नहीं हो रहे। पिछली बार भी जब इलेक्शन आते हैं तो ऐसे स्टंट खेले जाते हैं और बीजेपी को जिताने का संविधान तैयार किया जाता है। ये तैयार किए हुए सारे पहले से तैयार करके हमले करवाए जाते हैं। ये बीजेपी को जिताने का एक स्टंट होता है, इसमें सच्चाई नहीं होती। लोग मरवाने और लोगों के लाशों पे खेलना ये बीजेपी को आता है।
ये विदेशियों के इशारे पर काम करते हैं और सेना के प्रति इनका कोई मोह नहीं है। शहीदों के बलिदानों पर क्वेश्चन मार्क लगाते हैं। इतनी चंद वोट बैंक के कारण से ये इतना गिर गए हैं कांग्रेसी कि अब इनकी जो औकात है वो लोगों को पता चल गई है।
Farooq Abdullah responded to Defence Minister Rajnath Singh's statement regarding the merger of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir with India. Abdullah said that Pakistan is also not wearing bangles and possesses the atomic bomb. He further warned that any aggression from across the border could result in repercussions for India. Abdullah's remarks follow Rajnath's assertion that India would not need to forcefully capture Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, as its inhabitants would naturally desire to be part of India, particularly witnessing the development in Kashmir. Rajnath affirmed India's unwavering claim on a POK, but suggested that its integration could be achieved through peaceful means.
डिफेंस में सर कह रहे हैं तो करें, हम कौन से रोकने वाले हैं? हमें तो पहुंचेंगे नहीं। ये भी याद रखे वो भी चूड़ियां पहने हुए नहीं है, याद रखिएगा। उनके पास भी एटम बम है, ये याद रखिएगा। और अफसोस यह है कि वो एटम बम हमारे ऊपर ही गिरेगा।
The BJP, in fact, has attacked the India bloc over Farooq's statement and said that opposition is speaking Pakistan's language. They are giving cover fire to Pakistan. Moving on now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, while addressing a poll rally in Odisha's Behrampur, said that June 4 is the expiry date for the Biju Janata Dal government in Odisha and predicted a double-engine government was going to form in the state for the first time. Listen in.
और लिख लीजिए 4 जून पर यहां बीजेडी सरकार की एक्सपायरी डेट लिखी हुई है। 4 जून बीजेडी की एक्सपायरी डेट लिखी हुई है, मान लीजिए। भाइयों बहनों, आज 7 मई है, 6 मई है, आज 6 मई है। 6 जून को बीजेपी के मुख्यमंत्री पद का उम्मीदवार तय होगा। 10 जून को भुवनेश्वर में बीजेपी के मुख्यमंत्री का शपथ समारोह होगा। और मैं आज आप सबको भाजपा के सरकार के मुख्यमंत्री के शपथ समारोह के लिए निमंत्रण देने आया हूं।
My colleague Karthikeya Sharma spoke with Congress leader Jairam Ramesh about several issues. The interview will be aired at 3 p.m. today. Here's an excerpt from the conversation.
Why is Congress being accused by the Prime Minister that by introducing reservation, it will eat into the OBC quota?
See, I want to just the Prime Minister is spreading an epidemic of lies on this issue, and he's referring repeatedly to the Karnataka model of reservations. Now, what happened in Karnataka? Over a 20-year period, there were successive backward class commissions that advocated reservations for minorities, not just Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Jains, everybody, on the basis of social and economic backwardness, not on the basis of religion. So finally in 1994, when Mr. Veerappa Moily was the chief minister, reservations were introduced for Muslims, for Christians, for Buddhists, for Jains, for scheduled caste converts into Christianity, on the grounds of economic and social backwardness. A survey was carried out, and based on that, a reservation of 4% was provided to Muslims, for example. Now, that's not giving reservations on the basis of religion, that's giving reservation on the basis of economic and social backwardness. Now, since 1994, there have been 4 BJP chief ministers in Karnataka. There have been 2 prime ministers for 16 years out of the last 30 years. 16 years BJP has ruled in the center. Now, suddenly the Prime Minister discovers this as an issue. I want to ask the Prime Minister, number one, Mr. Deve Gowda, who became Chief Minister of Karnataka in December 1994, continued with this. So, was Mr. Deve Gowda also communal? Was he playing communal politics? Now, today, just this morning, we are speaking to each other on the 5th of May. This morning, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, who is an ally of the Prime Minister in Andhra Pradesh, has said he is in favor of reservations for minorities on the basis of economic and social backwardness. Does the Prime Minister challenge that statement as well? Does he say that his allies are wrong? So the real issue is that the Supreme Court, while it upheld the reservations for OBCs, said that the reservations for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and OBCs should not exceed 50%. They should 50% upper limit. Now, we have promised that we will review this limit and we will increase this limit, because Tamil Nadu is the only state of India where there is 69% reservation for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and OBCs, and that is protected in the 9th schedule of the Constitution. No other state is the reservation protected in this manner by the constitution? So we want to increase the 50% limit. I want to ask the Prime Minister, he keeps on talking about धर्म के आधार पर हम आरक्षण दे रहे हैं, जो बिल्कुल 100% गलत है, झूठ है। मैं प्रधानमंत्री जी से पूछना चाहता हूं, क्या ये आप 50% की सीमा हटाएंगे कि नहीं? Will you or will you not increase this limit? That's the issue.
We step for a quick break now. News and updates continue on the other side. Do stay with us.
Luxury is now becoming a need rather than something that you aspire to be. So that is adding a lot of fuel. Obviously, government has played a vital role in it.
In a city like Mumbai, a luxury home may be something upwards of rupees 10 crores. In city like Delhi, again maybe something upwards of 8-9 crores. But in Bangalore, we typically define a luxury home anything which is upwards of about 3 crores.
It's a combination of increased wealth, availability of more luxurious homes, and simultaneously the overall economy doing better.
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Welcome back. Indian-American astronaut Sunita Williams is set to return to space aboard Boeing's Starliner spacecraft on its maiden human spaceflight. Williams will be joined by NASA astronaut Barry Butch Wilmore on the crew flight test mission, marking the first crewed flight to the Starliner to the International Space Station. The launch is scheduled for the 6th of May, but will occur in the early hours of May 7 in India. It will be the first time astronauts ride an Atlas since NASA's Project Mercury, starting with John Glenn when he became the first American to orbit the Earth in 1962. A severe hailstorm struck several parts of Manipur, causing extensive damage to houses, vehicles and crops. The hailstones accumulated in thick white blankets across many areas. Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh pledged repairs to the damaged houses. Commuters on two-wheelers in Imphal West district sustained head injuries as the hailstorm caught them off guard. Numerous houses in various parts of the state, including Tera in Imphal West, sustained damage with hailstones piercing tin roofs. Strong winds also toppled hutments in different areas. The hailstorm caused cracks in the windshields of parked four-wheelers and uprooted trees across several areas. Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh assured that the government would repair the damaged houses. He also issued helpline numbers to ensure swift assistance. All schools and colleges will remain closed on 6th of May and 7th of May due to the prevailing weather conditions in the state. Responding to the Chief Minister's directive, Deputy Commissioners of all districts issued notices urging affected residents to seek help from their respective jurisdictions. Manipur's Environment and Climate Change Director clarified that the unseasonal rain was due to a storm and not climate change. The weather forecast for southern Bengal indicates thunderstorms with lightning and gusty winds. The India Meteorological Department reported a slight decrease in the intensity of the ongoing heat wave in Odisha, West Bengal and Jharkhand on Saturday, but the scorching temperatures are expected to persist until May 6th. IMD predicted a gradual drop in maximum temperatures by 2 to 3 degrees Celsius over the next 4 to 5 days. At the same time, Thunderstorms with lightning and gusty winds expected in southern Bengal. Fishermen are advised to avoid venturing into the Bay of Bengal between 6th of May and 7th of May. Heatwave conditions are prevalent in parts of Gangetic West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Odisha and Telangana, with temperatures exceeding normal by 3 to 5 degrees Celsius. Andhra Pradesh's Nandyal recorded the country's highest temperature at 46 degrees Celsius on Saturday. The IMD therefore forecasts light to moderate rainfall accompanied by thunderstorms in several states from the 5th of May to the 9th of May, including Odisha, Gangetic West Bengal, Bihar and Jharkhand, East Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, Madhya Pradesh, Vidarbha and Chhattisgarh, then Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Puducherry, Kerala and Karnataka. April witnessed record-breaking temperatures in many parts of India, prompting health warnings and school closures. After a fire broke out in the Dunagiri area of Almora, the surrounding atmosphere became enveloped in smoke. Over the past 2 days, a significant blaze ravaged the forests in the region, resulting in the destruction of thousands of hectares of woodland. The forest fire extended to the vicinity of the Dunagiri temple in Almora. The forest department swiftly responded to the emergency, dispatching a team to the scene to extinguish the flames. The prompt action there averted a major disaster and ensured the safety of devotees visiting the temple. Chief Forest Conservator personally assessed the situation and directed forest officials to expedite efforts in controlling the fire. We're taking a quick break now. Do stay with us.
India's ever-evolving urban landscape is witnessing a new revolution. And this one comes on 4 wheels.
The affluence has been growing. Cars are becoming more a reflection of what you are.
Nobody's talking about hatchbacks. Now what next? The next is the SUV.
The contribution of SUVs is close to 55-60% of the automobile sales these days.
Is that even manufacturers like to sell SUVs?
So, how did a nation obsessed with fuel economy come to love heavy gas-guzzling sports utility vehicles? Let's look at how India fell in love with the SUV.
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
India produces between 1,500 and 2,000 films every year, the highest for any country. But they get ignored at international awards.
The Oscars are basically American national awards for themselves.
You're not going to be able to make a better pizza than an Italian chef. You're not going to be able to make a better sushi than a Japanese chef. Will you make better khichdi than a Japanese chef? Right? So I want you to taste my food. We are making cinema that we are proud of. Yeah.
In fact, it has been 2 decades since an Indian feature film featured in the Oscars International Film category.
All these years, for much of its history, they've been just awarding their own films, and this one tiny category, Best Foreign Language Film, had the entire world frothing at the mouth to get into the Oscars.
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
There's a new video around what deepfake can do.
We have seen a trailer of this a few days back.
Rollers should not be only on the platform.
We'll have to wait and see how those play out.
Hindenburg's report cannot be taken as gospel of truth.
Welcome back. Let's now take a look at some of the stories making headlines on the international front. Welcome back. Their Chinese President Xi Jinping has arrived in Paris for a state visit to France at the invitation of French. Xi, they said, as important representatives of Eastern and Western civilizations, China and France have a long history of mutual appreciation and admiration. French President Emmanuel Macron is set to urge Xi to reduce trade imbalances and to use his influence with Russia over the war in Ukraine. China's president is due to meet Macron and European Commission chief today. France is backing a European Union probe into Chinese electric vehicle exports, and in January, Beijing opened an investigation into mostly French-made imports of brandy, a move widely seen as a tit-for-tat retaliation for EU probes. However, the EU's 27 members, in particular France and Germany, are divided on their attitude towards China. Students at DePaul University in Chicago held dueling protests on to show their support for both Israel and Palestinians in the war in Gaza. A row of Chicago police officers divided the two sides, and university officials advised faculty, students and community members to avoid the area. DePaul University is the United States' largest Catholic university with approximately 14,500 undergraduates, 7,000 graduates and 800 law students. Police have arrested more than 2,000 people during protests at dozens of campuses around the country. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reaffirmed that he will not entertain Hamas demands for an end to the Gaza war in exchange for the freeing of hostages, saying complying would keep the Palestinian Islamist group and endanger Israel's security. Netanyahu said Israel was open to temporary fighting in Gaza in order to secure the release of hostages still being held by Hamas, estimated to be more than 130 individuals.
Contrary to these publications, it is Hamas that is preventing the release of our hostages. We are working in every possible way to free the hostages. It's our top priority. Israel has been and still is ready for a pause in the fighting in order to free our hostages. But while Israel has shown willingness, Hamas remains entrenched in its extreme position, first among them, the demand to remove all our forces from Gaza Strip, end the war and leave Hamas in power. The state of Israel cannot accept that. We are not willing to accept a situation in which Hamas battalions leave their tunnels, re-establish control over the Strip, rebuild their military industries and go back to threatening the citizens of Israel in the communities near Gaza, the cities of the south and throughout the country. In such a case, the next October 7 would be a matter of time. Capitulating to Hamas demands would be a terrible defeat for the state of Israel. It would be a great victory for Hamas, Iran and the entire axis of evil. It would demonstrate a terrible weakness to our friends and to our enemies. This weakness would only bring closer the next war, and it would push off the next peace agreement, because alliances are not made with the weak and the defeated. Alliances are made with the strong and the victorious. Therefore, Israel will not agree to Hamas demands, which would mean surrender. It will continue fighting until all of its objectives are achieved.
Palestinians sift through the rubble of the Al-Shahir family home in Rafa city, destroyed by an Israeli airstrike overnight. Arif Al-Shahir, who lost his house in the attack, expressed concern that the world was under the false impression that Rafa was safe.
لا ما في أمان في رفح إطلاقا رفح ما فيها أمان. كل يوم القصف شغال، كل يوم الضرب شغال، بس إنه هيك دعاية وإعلام للغرب إنه في أمان في رفح. هي رفح ما فيها أمان بالمرة.
ورفح حتى رفح إنه آمن، ولكن هذا كذب وافتراء وهراء على الناس. هذا عشان المجتمع الدولي بيقول وين الأمان؟ هذا الأمان، هذا تفضل الأمان، هذا هو الأمان. شايف؟ هذا الأمان يا رفح، هاي رفح الأمان، هاي رفح. كل يوم بكسر فيها وبخبط فيها وبسوي فيها وبدنا نخش رفح، يعني نخش رفح وخلصنا من هالقصة هذه. خلص رفح وخلصها بيدها بالمرة. من قائد حرب إبادة، هو صاحب حرب إبادة وخلاص.
Israeli police raided a Jerusalem hotel room used by Al Jazeera as its de facto office on following a government decision to shut down the Qatari-owned TV station's local operations. More in this report.
This is a very dangerous decision against Al Jazeera.
The head of Al Jazeera in Israel and the Palestinian territories on Sunday slammed an Israeli government decision to shutter the network's local operations. Walid Omari says he believes the decision against the Qatari-owned outlet was political.
It's clear that they want to prevent from any others to know what is happening in this war in Gaza, inside Israel, in the West Bank.
הממשלה תדון היום בסגירת שידורי אל-ג'זירה בישראל.
But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated his view that the network's journalists threaten national security. His cabinet voted to shut down the network for as long as the war in Gaza continues. Later on Sunday, an Israeli official and an Al Jazeera source both told Reuters Israeli authorities raided a Jerusalem hotel room, which was being used as Al Jazeera's de facto office.
This is dangerous because this is inciting the extremists in Israel and the settlers to start attacking journalists, especially from Al Jazeera.
A government statement said Israel intended to close Al Jazeera offices, confiscate broadcast equipment, and block the channel from Israeli cable and satellite companies. It did not specifically mention the network's operations in Gaza. Al Jazeera has been critical of Israel's military operation in Gaza and has reported around the clock throughout the war in the enclave.
I think the Israeli government is feeling pressure by our coverage.
In April, the network accused Israel of trying to systematically silence it, arguing that Israeli authorities had deliberately targeted and killed several of its journalists. Israel has said it does not target journalists. The UN Human Rights Office also criticized the closure. There was no official comment from the Qatari government.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke at his country's annual commemoration of the victims of the Nazi Holocaust, vowing that Israel would confront what he called genocidal enemies.
Contrary to these publications, it is Hamas that is preventing the release of our hostages. We are working in every possible way to free the hostages. It's our top priority. Israel has been and still is ready for a pause in the fighting in order to free our hostages. But while Israel has shown willingness, Hamas remains entrenched in its extreme position, first among them the demand to remove all our forces from Gaza Strip, end the war and leave Hamas in power. The state of Israel cannot accept that. We are not willing to accept a situation in which Hamas battalions leave their tunnels, re-establish control over the Strip, rebuild their military industries and go back to threatening the citizens of Israel in the communities near Gaza, the cities of the south and throughout the country. In such a case, the next October 7 would be a matter of time. Capitulating to Hamas demands would be a terrible defeat for the state of Israel. It would be a great victory for Hamas, Iran, and the entire axis of evil. It would demonstrate a terrible weakness to our friends and to our enemies. This weakness would only bring closer the next war, and it would push off the next peace agreement, because alliances are not made with the weak and the defeated. Alliances are made with the strong and the victorious. Therefore, Israel will not agree to Hamas demands, which would mean surrender. It will continue fighting until all of its objectives are achieved.
Ukrainians in the embattled east flocked to church to mark their third wartime Easter as Russian troops inched closer to threatening some of the region's key cities.
In Ukraine's embattled east, Chaplain Yevhen Sevchenko is with the military's 93rd Mechanized Brigade. And on Sunday, he helped visibly tired troops at a temporary base in an undisclosed location mark the Orthodox Easter holiday. So many people can go to church and be at their homes in peace and freedom, he says, thanking the soldiers. This is the third wartime Easter commemoration since Russian forces invaded Ukraine. These soldiers only gave their first names. Yuri says he can't help but think of loved ones back home.
How do I feel? I want this war to be over as soon as possible, go home to my family and celebrate Easter with them, or with my comrades, but in a different setting.
In the absence of family, these soldiers enjoy traditional Easter pastries provided by acquaintances and volunteers. While most Western churches observed the Easter holiday at the end of March, Orthodox Christians, including those in Ukraine and Russia, mark it now. Fighting on the Eastern Front has worsened in recent weeks, particularly around the town of Chasiv Yar. All while Ukrainian troops wait for crucial U.S. military aid to beat back Moscow's advance. Meanwhile, several airstrikes hit the eastern city of Kharkiv on Sunday. leaving a woman dead and more than a dozen injured. In Kyiv, a local cathedral and folklore museum teamed up to honor the army's fight. President Volodymyr Zelensky called on Ukrainians to unite in prayer. People also marked the holiday in the war-struck town of Kostiantynivka, while knowing Russian troops are moving closer. I'm scared, but what can I do, says resident Svetlana. On Easter, I want to come here and get blessings for my Easter cake and eggs. Despite everything, it's a holiday.
Meanwhile, Orthodox Christians gathered at the Church of Saint Porphyrios in Gaza City to celebrate Easter, praying for an end to the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Inside the Greek Orthodox Church, worshippers lit candles and offered prayers for peace, expressing their hopes for a future free of violence. The church currently shelters hundreds of displaced Palestinians. The Orthodox Church in the Gaza Strip, it was hit last year in October by an Israeli airstrike, damaging some parts of it. Australian police said on Sunday they had shot dead a boy after he stabbed a man in Western Australia's capital Perth in an attack authorities said indicated terrorism.
Australian police said on Sunday they had shot dead a 16-year-old boy after he stabbed a man in Western Australia's capital Perth. Police said the attack had hallmarks of terrorism but was yet to be declared a terrorist act. Cole Blanche is Western Australia's police commissioner.
We are dealing with complex issues with this 16-year-old male, both mental health issues but also online radicalisation issues. He is known to police, but we believe he very much is acting alone.
The attack occurred late on Saturday night. State authorities said they had received calls from concerned members of the local Muslim community before the attack. The victim, stabbed in the back, was stable in hospital, authorities said. The incident comes after New South Wales police last month charged several boys with terrorism-related offences in investigations, following the stabbing of an Assyrian Christian bishop while he was giving a live-streamed sermon in Sydney on April 15th. The attack on the bishop came only days after a stabbing spree killed 6 in the Sydney beachside suburb of Bondi. Gun and knife crimes is rare in Australia, which consistently ranks among the safest countries in the world, according to the federal government.
Dozens of people in 2 rubber dinghies reached the southern coast of England on Saturday, the latest among thousands of asylum-seeking migrants to make the risky sea crossing from France this year.
Dozens of people in 2 rubber dinghies reached the southern coast of England on Saturday. They are among thousands of asylum-seeking migrants to make the risky trip across the Channel from France this year. The arrivals illustrate the difficulties British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak faces on his pledge to tackle illegal migration and, quote, stop the boats, ahead of a national election expected later this year. Sunak hopes his flagship policy to deport those arriving in Britain to Rwanda without permission will deter people from making the Channel crossing. But the more than 8,000 people who have arrived on small boats so far in 2024 make for a record number. At least 5 people died in the attempt last month, as many flee war or famine. Saturday's boats sailed across the narrow strip of sea separating France and Britain, with a French naval vessel following them until they reached English waters. Their largely male passengers were taken aboard a British Border Force vessel off Dover. The government hopes to operate the first flights to Rwanda in 9 to 11 weeks. A spokesperson for Britain's Home Office said, quote, The unacceptable number of people who continue to cross the channel demonstrates exactly why we must get flights to Rwanda off the ground as soon as possible.
Heavy rains caused flooding in eastern Texas over the weekend. From Dallas to Grimes County, residents woke up to flooded or damaged roads after intense lightning storms. ABC affiliate WFAA reported high rainfall totals across southern North Texas and central Texas, where flooding is most severe. Meanwhile, affiliate KTRK in Houston issued a flood watch for several counties, including Chambers, Grimes, Harris, and Montgomery. Meanwhile, on your screens, the drone footage showing extent of flooding from intense rain in East Texas. The video also shows road damage after heavy rains in Texas. In Houston and surrounding areas, heavy rains trigger high water, flooding neighborhoods and prompting over 400 rescues. Residents remain stranded on rooftops and roads submerged in murky water. Many prepare to evacuate as the situation worsens. A flood watch remains in place, with forecasters warning of more rainfall and the potential for major flooding. About 11 million people in Texas and Oklahoma are under flood warnings and watches this weekend. Local authorities and volunteers rescued residents stranded in the flooded town of Canoas, southern Brazil on Sunday, as speedboats navigated inundated streets for people still trapped in their homes. Thousands of people have been stranded in Rio Grande do Sul state without food or water after devastating floods killed 78 people. Heavy rains that caused the flooding in Rio Grande do Sul have displaced more than 115,000 people. Flooding from recent storms in the past few days have impacted more than two-thirds of the nearly 500 cities in the state, which borders Argentina. The rains there also triggered landslides and the partial collapse of a dam at a small hydroelectric power plant.
Massive flooding caused by heavy rain in Brazil's southern state of Rio Grande do Sul has pushed the death toll up at least 78 people by the end of Sunday, with nearly 120,000 people displaced. President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and his cabinet arrived in the region on Sunday morning to discuss rescue and reconstruction efforts with local authorities.
I know that we have many state roads that need repair. I want to tell you that I'm not worried because the federal government, through the Ministry of Transportation, will help you recover the state roads.
Volunteers with boats, jet skis, or that were even simply swimming have helped ongoing rescue efforts. The death toll could still drastically increase, as over 100 people were reported missing on Sunday, according to the state Civil Defense Authority. Flooding from the storms over the past few days has affected more than two-thirds of the nearly 500 cities in the state, which sits on the border with Uruguay and Argentina. An Instagram video from the Army's Aviation Command showed an officer hitting the roof of the house with a brick to rescue the child and pull him to safety. Reuters blurred the toddler's face to protect his identity. The toddler and his relatives were trapped in the floods in Lajeado in southern Brazil. Floods have destroyed roads and bridges in several cities. The rain also triggered landslides and the partial collapse of a dam at a small hydroelectric power plant, leaving nearly 500,000 people without power on Sunday evening.
On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of the Bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. News and updates continue on the other side. Don't go anywhere. This is me, Neha, signing off for the day.
I try and convert almost everything in a kind of a mathematical formula.
You should always stretch more than you can reach.
Listening is very important.
Because if you don't listen, how would you know what the problem is?
Everybody who's working in and around me, their personal well-being is also responsibility that I